You're in Emsolation.
Yes.
Clack.
Clack. Bette Midler, Hello Dolly, Broadway's greatest musical. Oh, the man from Hello Dolly died.
I know.
He's so beloved.
I know.
So many people that I love and admire loved and admired him.
And I think he was about our age.
Yes.
And apparently like one of the absolute mainstays of Broadway and clearly beloved by all ensemble cast that he's worked with and crews and died suddenly. It was horrific.
It was something like he only had 2 months. He found a very rare form of cancer and was making beautiful phone calls and telling people how he felt. And then
we've really started dark.
Gavin Creel. We have started dark and we're going to be digging further down the tunnel. Welcome.
I hope you enjoyed the light relief of the episode.
Yes. No, look, this episode it's jam-packed with real life stuff. The stuff of life.
That's right.
Is what we shall call this episode.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid to roll right to the edge and sometimes peer over into the abyss.
Yeah.
And our guest today,
yes,
we have a very special guest, has launched himself headfirst into that abyss many times.
And brought back imagery.
Gaga has released an absolute stinker and Robbie Williams is an ape.
That's correct.
But the first thing I want to talk about is, the name of the show. Hello and welcome to Emsolation. My name is Em Russiano. I'm a writer, a singer, a stand-up comedian, a maximalist power queen, a neurodivergent magic brain and a podcaster. And together with my best friend since I was 11, International Emmy Award nominated Mr. Michael Lucas.
Hello.
I bring you this podcast every week. It is a little bit different this week because I need to talk through a medical emergency that I experienced over the weekend. And then once we've come out of that, we will be beautifully
dovetailing, pirouetting
into
a discussion about this amazing book, Living with Bipolar, which
as you can imagine, a joyful page turner.
No, it is uplifting.
It's actually extremely uplifting
by the end.
Compared to
it's a journey.
Xavier.
Well, yours.
Mine is typically me. It's on brand.
Yeah.
It's certainly on brand.
We thought Em wasn't going to be coming to the show today, should we just say? Like Ben and I were prepared. I was actually quite surprised. When she said she's coming in, I was like, whoa. Okay.
I need to unburden myself.
Okay.
And what better way to do it?
Than on a hot mic.
Correct. The thing is, though, I've tried to talk about it with people and it's too hard for me to get through it. So last night at 1 a.m., I typed 1,831 words and purged myself of
the experience.
Yes.
Which you're still sort of trapped in a way.
I am trapped in a way. But I'm going to read to you what I wrote. I haven't done any editing or scraping. I don't know what is here.
Any context for this, or we're going to absolute raw dog into it?
Raw dog.
Okay.
Coming in dry. Woo! Hang on to your ankles, Australia and international emsolators. Here we go. Starts in classic, low-key Russiano style. A few days ago, I was rushed to emergency in an ambulance. For a period of time, I thought I was going to die. In the end, I was okay, but someone needs to tell my body that. Story time. Last Sunday, I drove to a Whole Foods supermarket about 40 minutes from where I live to try and find my eldest daughter some good gluten and dairy-free options.
Good, because she does get the IBS at times.
She's developed a serious allergy to both and has been living off rice and vegetables and been thoroughly miserable about it. I woke up Sunday determined to help her and began researching the best place to go. And after a bit of looking, I found a gluten-free Mecca not too far from us and headed there after lunch. It was a successful and very expensive outing. I managed to locate both vegan feta and mozzarella that promised to melt, a thing the majority of vegan cheeses struggle to do, and a variety of other substitutes for her favourite foods. I then wandered around the vintage market in the building next door. Don't think that fact was lost on me when I was in autism-powered research overdrive into gluten-free supermarkets. and noticed that it was almost 5 o'clock, and I knew I needed to get myself home before the night air set in so I could prepare everyone for the return to kinder and school for the week ahead. I've just lost all the spit in my mouth. Why is this so hard?
Because it is making you feel the exact same things that you felt at the time.
Because when I go back and write things as I want to talk to Xavier about, I have to relive them to do them justice. I pulled out onto the busy highway. The market was near, and about 2 minutes into my drive, I felt a strong pain in my chest, akin to someone pushing a tennis ball just below my sternum on the right side of my body. Now, my body is usually a symphony of strange aches and pains. I'm an ex-junior athlete, 45 and in perimenopause. So I gave it a bit of a rub and tried to keep driving. As I pulled up to a red light, I noticed my right arm began to feel full and tingly. I gave it a shake and tried to wiggle my fingers, but then realised they were stuck in a claw shape. And I realised very quickly that I needed to pull my car over before it got any worse. I managed to get across 2 lanes and parked my car on the side of the highway I'd been driving on. I attempted to take a few breaths but couldn't get enough air in. My heart started racing and I could hear it loudly in my ears. And then the proper panic set in. And around then, I knew I needed to get myself out of the car and try and flag someone down. I managed to press the button on my seatbelt, but as I tried to lift my right leg, I couldn't get it to cooperate. It felt heavy, almost like it belonged to someone else. I sat there in my car on the side of a busy road, trapped in my body, unable to help myself, and desperately trying to figure out what I needed to do next. The truth is, I wasn't in that much physical pain, but my mental state was a whole other story. I'm going to die, I said out loud to no one. I've never experienced that kind of terror before. It was all-consuming, the kind you know you can't fight, and so you have absolutely no other option but to surrender to it. I tried to remember what I needed to do next. I should call an ambulance, I thought. No, I corrected myself. That's too dramatic. Narrator. It was not too dramatic. She should have called an ambulance. Folks, I was semi-paralysed with a pain in my chest and an irregular heartbeat on the side of a road, and I'm such a people pleaser that I was too self-conscious to phone a fucking ambulance. I'd never been in an ambulance or had to call one for myself or anyone else. And in that moment, I genuinely felt embarrassed that I'd even considered it. I asked Siri to phone my husband. He answered, and I tried to explain what was happening. I told him that I was worried I was going to die and that he needed to tell the girls and Elio that I loved them. But he firmly told me that I was not going to die and that he was on his way to find me. He asked me where I was, but I suddenly felt very confused. I knew where I was, but I was having trouble finding the words to communicate that information to him. And then my vision started strobing, and he said he was hanging up and calling an ambulance. I said, no! Don't call an ambulance. It's okay. I just need to calm myself down enough to drive myself to the emergency department. You see, that was progress. I was actually conceding that I probably needed medical attention.
Baby steps.
Just to recap, chest pain, irregular heartbeat,
blurred vision,
tingling and numb limbs, breathing issues, disorientation, and apparent aphasia, trouble speaking. Didn't need an ambulance.
No cause for alarm.
That's fine. Shut up, Siri.
She's been there for you before.
Luckily, my husband, Scott, ignored me and said he was driving to me. He could see me on the Stalker app that we use to track the children.
I knew this would come around to, and again, a ringing endorsement of the Stalker app, as if we needed another one.
Stalker app.
Could have saved your life.
He called 000. I hung up and the I'm going to die terror quickly returned. And I thought about genuinely how glad I was I cleaned my house before I left.
Yeah, I can attest. I was there on Friday night. The cleaning was in process. It was phase 1, but it was happening.
I was going through an OCD episode. I've been having some mental health issues of late, and usually my house is the beneficiary of
stability through cleaning.
Correct. And then an unknown number rang my mobile, and for the first time in my life, I answered it.
I can attest. She does not like
the phone.
Undeclared number.
I don't even like declared numbers. When you call, I answer with "What's wrong?"
That is very true. No matter what.
It was emergency services. A calm young woman told me that an ambulance was on its way to me, that she'd spoken to my husband, Scott, and that it would be arriving any minute. She asked me then to tell me what had happened, and I attempted to recap my symptoms and how they'd arrived. But again, I was having trouble speaking. It was so strange. I could feel the words in my mouth. I could shape them. I could see the word, but I couldn't say it. I could describe it, but say I was looking for road, I would say the black hard thing that cars are driving on, but I could not reach in and grab road. It was so strange. And I would say to my arm, I could say, just move. And it would slightly kind of, it was the most, I just
made me have trouble breathing.
Well, that was the whole point. I was hyperventilating. I was going into complete panic. Could hear my heart in my ears. And she was amazing. Even just the lady on the phone, she was so kind, and she realized I was having trouble speaking, and she stopped asking me questions and just said, Amelia, I'll stay on the line with you until the paramedics are at your car door. And I kept an eye on my rearview mirror, and within a minute or so, I saw the red and blue flashing lights of an ambulance, and a small amount of relief entered my body. And I told the operator that I could see the ambulance, but she said, please just stay with me on the line until they are actually with you at your car. I watched the ambulance speed down the road toward me and then past me, and then panic returned when I saw it go up and over the hill away from me. It wasn't my ambulance. But I hoped to myself the person that they were going to was okay. I always worry when I see ambulances because I think about where they're going, and I worry about that person, and that person's had to get, their families had to get the phone call that your loved one's in an ambulance, and I've had that phone call and it's the worst phone call ever. And then I realized my family was going to have to get that phone call. 30 seconds later, I saw more red and blue lights tearing through the intersection behind me, and they screeched to a halt behind my car. A young man got out of the ambulance, ran to my car door, opened it up, and he said, my name is Ben and I'm going to help you. He said, can you tell me what's happening? So I tried again to explain, but he then realized I was having trouble speaking. He could see I couldn't move my arm or leg and helped me straight out of the car and onto a gurney. His partner, Elise, came out to assist as well, and they got me into the ambulance really quickly, hooked me up to a heart monitor and began all the checks. They were basically trying to figure out if it was a heart attack or a stroke. They ruled out heart attack due to my weak limbs and other medical factors I have no business trying to explain here. Then they agreed that they were very concerned about the possibility of a stroke, and they decided on Box Hill Hospital as the place they needed to take me. Just as we were getting ready to leave, Scott arrived and answered a few questions and was told to follow the ambulance to the hospital. Elise sat in the back with me, and she did an excellent job of keeping me calm. We realised that we had the same birthday, exactly 10 years apart. She's 89, I'm 79, 1st of March. I know, what a ledge. And she also managed to get an IV cannula into my arm without me even noticing.
And
I have to, I know.
Sensory issues.
I know. She was, well, I told her I had ADHD and I was autistic, and she understood what that meant. They dimmed the lights. They turned everything down. They were asking only, like they knew how to deal with me. And she did. She shoved a whole ass cannula in my vein while I was, thought I was having a stroke. And I must emphatically say that both of them were incredible from the moment they encountered me. And honestly, please pay paramedics all of the money, whatever they want, just hand it over. We arrived at the ED of Box Hill Hospital, and I was taken in for an immediate CT scan. Like, they took me in. There was no delay. I was kind of a bit out of it, but also just exploding with terror. I've never had this kind of fear in my life. And as we know, I live in a near constant state of fear. I just vibrate at that frequency. But this is just a whole other level.
Is CT the one where you go into the thing? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they assisted me onto the bed, and I was told I was having a CT scan first. And then if they needed to, I do a CT scan with contrast, which is a dye they put in through your IV, which illuminates the organ they're trying to see. They did the first CT and said they needed to do
the contrast
one, which set me off straight away. Ben came over and put his arm on mine, and he said, it's okay, they're just doing it as a precaution. And then he said, you cold, I'm going to get you a heated blanket. So Ben then went and found me a heated blanket. Now,
this is still the ambo.
Is the ambo. Ben hasn't left my side since we got there.
I didn't realise that. I thought they were like...
I didn't know either. But he stayed with me the whole time.
Right.
So he put the warm blanket on me. When they do the I don't know if anyone's had it, but you feel like you've pissed your pants. So I'm lying there thinking, fucking great.
Because he was hot too. I'm sure it wasn't going through your head.
Don't
I'm not
give it
sorry.
away. Don't give it away. But we do not
Objectify
first responders.
public servants as well.
Don't worry, I've written a whole paragraph about how hot he was. Anyway, he gets me the blanket. They whoosh me in and out of the machine. They put the dye in me and I'm kind of there, unable to move. There's a team of doctors there. They've got neurology in, looking very concerned. And I'm like, fuck, I'm having a fucking stroke. I'm 45. I'm having a stroke. I was just like incandescent with anxiety. And once they'd finished it all, they said, they'd have a look and let me know. I got put back onto the gurney and taken back out into ED. And Ben came to me and said, we're trying to find you a bed. He said, just give me a second. And he went back into the room where the doctors were and he kind of hovered. And then he came back to me and he said, it's okay. And I'm like, he said, I was an ED nurse for 7 years at Austin. He said, I'm like, this is, and I'm like, oh, this is his hood. This is why he knows where everything is and he knows and he said, they're going to come and tell you that, but I just wanted to let you know that they haven't found
what
it.
A legend.
Oh, Ben! Side note.
Okay.
When I tell you that in any other circumstance, if I'd have encountered Ben in the world, it would have been a dazzling and noteworthy experience. Let's just say later that night, as Scott kissed me goodbye, he leant over and said, that Ambo was one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen in my life.
Scott's always good at acknowledging these things. I respect it.
To which I told Scott, we should never objectify our first responders. But when I tell you the deep set blue eyes, tanned, tall, kind of scruffy hair, mustache, like, oh my God. And I don't want to assume one of you. I think.
Okay.
I don't want to assume.
I do know that amongst the paramedic community, there's quite high rates of.
And was an ED nurse. But we do not
make assumptions and we do not objectify.
We do not make assumptions objectify.
We just quietly, when we're healthy enough, start to write the fan fiction.
I just tell you, Elise and Ben, Elise was just this amazing, like she you couldn't have typed, if I had to go to central casting and pick the two Ambos I'd want to turn up to my character, it would be the efficient, strong, 35-year-old, sensible woman and the Errol Flynn-esque, like they were the perfect combination. I don't want to make assumptions about Elise either.
No, I think you just did.
But after I found out I was okay, I was a regular chatty Cathy. I still had no idea what was happening. I still couldn't move my arms or legs or form coherent sentences, but it wasn't a stroke. I'd take it. So I waited in the ED and, I had to, people were coming in and out and doing various tests, and then they decided to keep me in overnight for observation. And long story short, it was a fucking migraine.
Now, is that just because they rule out everything else and they go, it must have been a migraine, or can you actually definitively prove it's a migraine? They
can't definitively prove it. So I was thinking about, I used to watch House. Remember that show, House?
Oh, do I ever?
It was like one of my all-time favorite shows. Hugh Laurie, clearly autistic.
Yeah. What's the diagnosis?
Yeah, and would work through, and sometimes.
Oh, and you'd always get middle episode that he's on whatever he's on the middle episode, you're like, well, it's not going to be that because he's got to veer off into another,
But it would always be one bizarre twist of fate.
Yeah.
Like, he saw a dung beetle in the corner of his eye and the reflective red shell of it reminded him of a time he saw a berry in Africa and the effect that berry had on a rhinoceros that ate it. It must be this rare and strange disease. It was always, every episode, it was always something like,
Were you hoping for something rarer than what it was?
I was hoping Dr. House was going to walk in. No, I wasn't hoping for rare.
No.
I was hoping for a definitive, it was, not a
In fact, it's kind of best case scenario. Oh, right. We think it
We think it was an atypical migraine, which mimicked the symptoms of a stroke.
But also, you had been sick.
I'd had nausea for 5. I'd been vomiting hectically at home.
Which was confusing because I'd had
Yeah.
I thought, no, mine was food poisoning. I didn't give it to you, did I? But now that makes sense in the context of you had a migraine coming on.
Yeah, I was really sick at home Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I slept for 3 days. I was vomiting.
Well, that's very migraine-y.
So, after all that, a headache. But to call the migraine I experienced a headache is like calling
Well, and actually it didn't technically have that ache in the head.
No.
I mean, I had various aches, but not that one.
The migraines I've been having are like, it's like calling Niagara Falls a trickle of water. Like, it's not a headache. It's a fucking life event.
And pray tell, this may be connected to the change of life? Is in some ways exacerbated, or have they always been of this pitch and intensity?
Well, the migraines only started since I started going through menopause. So thanks. So it's not a stroke. I'm okay.
I do think it's also worth saying, even though you hear like stroke in your 40s, actually, I know someone
Well, they did keep saying she's so young, so healthy.
I know 2 people that had strokes in their 30s.
I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
They kept saying,
oh, you are. Look at you.
You're so young, you're so healthy.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, only in a hospital
They actually wrote bitches kept it tight on the file.
Official diagnosis, tight. But only
Banging.
in a hospital, only in a
Stacked.
hospital setting am I young and healthy, let's be real.
Yeah. Did anyone ask about your hair? They should have.
Well, we'll get to
Unless the hair can't trigger a migraine, can it?
that. No, but their hair is an issue for another reason.
What, too attractive for people?
Well, that too. I have to get an MRI.
That's not funny. And what? You can't have the hair when you have the MRI. Why?
Do the metal clips in there?
That is not funny, but also...
If you were writing this in a TV show in the plotting room, everyone would be like...
Can I just say, you really set up this saga, and I did think it was going to have an unspectacular end. I felt it was just going to be you come in one day and you're like, I got sick of it. But to think that finally it crescendos in an MRI and the forced removal of you...
But I mean, do I need the MRI? If I'm going to go...
Go out hot.
Do I need it?
Yeah.
Do I need it? I mean, the CT was clear. What's the MRI going to show us?
Well, more, I would say. You just want to... I'm going to say put your brain above your admittedly spectacular hair extensions. You'd never know they're even hair extensions.
That
They've done a beautiful
job. I have to go back
job.
to the hair witch's lair.
But if
the
they
hair witch's lair.
Can't they temporarily take it out and then put it back in? Well, I don't understand.
Or maybe I could travel with them.
Please welcome my hair team.
Undo the hair.
Yeah.
In I go, and I'll come out like fucking Cinderella. No, Sandy from Greece when the birds fly in and dress her at the start of that. They can just fly in and reattach the hair. I can be covered up so no one sees me in my no hair face.
That's not what you look like without
I'm just being
dramatic.
This is for comedy purposes.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, I'm going to get the fucking MRI. But these are thoughts I did have. Do I really need to? The thing is, my computer's gone flat. The thing is, I'm okay. I'm not going to die. I didn't die. But I just wish somebody would inform my body of that, as I said right at the top.
You have a different... You were like that before.
Yeah,
You're braced.
I'm having horrendo like Melrose Place flashbacks. You know those terrible flashbacks, the 90s shows we loved with the
Jerky camera.
and then
Strange lighting.
with Vaseline on the lens.
Yeah, strobe, bit of strobe happening.
Bit of blue light.
Yeah,
I'm
someone
having
dead
those.
might wander in.
Yeah, well, and I'm my body and my brain and my psyche all went through the emotions of thinking I was going to die. And I wish I could just go back to 5 o'clock on Saturday AM and soothe her and say,
It's fine.
It's okay. But it doesn't change the fact that even though I'm okay, there was a period of time when my body and brain genuinely thought I was never going to see my kids again. Thank God my house was clean. Thank God my hair looked great. But
Drawers sorted out, I presume.
genuinely, yeah. And the other thing is,
Thank God your hair looked
I'm
great.
going to say this. The other thing is, oh my God. I've finally got myself a cleaner, a lovely cleaner.
Yeah.
And this is such a fucking sidestep. I'm one of the only 3 female comedians who's ever been allowed to perform at the Laird, which is a men's all-male bear
Collingwood,
leather club.
Yes.
To thank me for my performance, they gave me a large black dildo as a souvenir.
Yeah.
And I realised that my new cleaner was coming and the large black dildo sat in my underwear drawer. It's way too big for me to use. I would do permanent damage. I'd need more than an ambulance. It's just like a funny little trophy. But she doesn't know that. So I popped it in a canvas bag and had been carrying it around with me around the house from room to room. And Sheila said to me, "Why are you carrying your tote bag around?" And I said, I just sick of carrying. I'm sick of being a pack horse. Anyway, in it was a big black dildo because I didn't want my cleaner to find it. And I did as I was sitting there.
You didn't
my
take
life
it to the organic store, did you?
No.
Oh.
But I'd hung it on the back of my door. And I did for a moment, as my life flashing before my eyes, think the house is clean. But fuck, my parents are going to find the dildo in the bag hanging on the back of my door.
And if they did, if everything went to as bad as it could have gone, I would have said, I know for a fact that she wanted this to be hollowed out. She wanted her ashes in the dildo. It's true. That's what. And then at the end of it, we're going to present the ashes-filled dildo and say, gays, this is what she wanted.
You nearly got a phone call from me. Bitch.
Go get the dildo.
Get the dildo from the back. Anyway.
I love that. Yeah, I
think
feel
I've got a
very
bit
proud.
of PTSD from Sunday.
I would have done it too.
I know.
And I would have understood that that's more important than anything else that could happen at this
You're
time.
the only person I could have called.
I think Scott would have found his way to it. I think he would have thought it was notable, but he's pretty good. He's not flummoxed by things like that. It is a hard one to explain. To be frank, the explanation does sound like even I'm a little bit like, really? Is that what you want?
No, it's the truth.
Okay, no, well.
I don't want things up my bits. Don't even want my husband up there. My big black rubber thing. Anyway, also it ends well. I'm not dead, but I'm fucking traumatized.
Well, you've loosened slightly. Not really.
That's the story.
Wow.
Let's talk about bipolar. Woo! Coming up next, we'll do some reshuffling. Fred, give me this beautiful book. A friend and colleague of Michael Lucas's is joining us, Xavier Coy. Xavier Coy has written this incredible, it was a bit like staring into the sun for me reading. I'm just going to say
Yes, there were many passages. He takes you inside the experience of what it is to be living with bipolar. And there are many times where I did think...
this. Do it to camera. It's incredible.
I suddenly felt like I was on Play School. Because that's what they used to do.
This would be a dark episode of fucking Play School.
But they did used to do that, right? But I always was impressed how they could really hold
children,
it.
is the demon that will appear. Your sleep paralysis
is the manic
demon that will come to you at night when you try to close your eyes and sleep.
This children is hopelessness.
Something you'll experience the minute you become an adult.
Actually, I should go like that, shouldn't I, James?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, there we go.
Xavier's joining us next. And then after that, we'll be heading to the sealed section to talk about Gaga's new movie and Robbie Williams as Annette.
Welcome back.
I love this. I'm just going to sit here and just do like what you do, but I need to undo a few more buttons.
I did expose a nipple
The
unintentionally.
last time we had a guest here, Michael exposed a nipple because he had so many buttons undone.
It's true. It was what she is leaving out is that she told me to undo the buttons.
I did. I'm an enabler when it comes to buttons.
She led this lamb to slaughter. But we are very thrilled to welcome Xavier Coy. So Xavier is a friend of mine because Xavier worked on 5 Bedrooms. He is this incredibly prolific writer, and the prolific, that's a clue. We'll talk about that. Very fast, prolific writer who came into our writer's room as like a junior person helping with the plotting, and then went on to become a fully fledged screenwriter on the show.
Yes.
Right before the world ended. In fact, the episode you wrote of 5 Bedrooms was what was actually shooting when COVID hit. And then
that's right.
Xavier is Sydney-based, so then everything fell apart, everything was stopped, and then eventually, sometime down the track, you said that you had been diagnosed with bipolar, which I'll admit came as a bit of a shock to me because you just seemed sort of, I would have even described you as like, mood-wise, struck me as very reliably sort of effervescent, upbeat. Granted, I only saw you really in the specific plotting room circumstance. And in retrospect, I was a bit like, it was weird how he could write scripts in 48 hours. That's not a standard situation.
Same.
But I didn't really. So now, of course, I go back in time and thinking that all those times, because writing rooms are like long days meetings, like it's like could be a form of torture. And so one of the first things I'm wondering is, in that period of time, obviously all of these symptoms were happening. Were you completely carefully masking and managing all of that whole period of time?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. So were you, I mean, you were good because Because this is like an 8-hour day in a room, fluorescent lighting overhead. And if you're feeling half the things that we're describing in this book, I don't know how I would have to leave the room.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Like when you know you're going to be like, it fluctuates your emotional states as well. Like if you're hypomanic or if you're depressive, like some periods you are fine.
Yeah.
And that's when you sort of gaslight yourself and convince yourself that actually I'm always like this. It's not bad. Like I don't need to get this attended to. But then when you are like hypomanic and you're just like, fuck, I can't sit still.
Yeah.
It's just like I just need to move around. I need to do anything that's not this.
Yeah. And so
That's hard.
so your narrative in your head in that time was, no, I'm fine. It's just sometimes I go.
Won't sleep for a few days.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Or I'll just cry ordering a coffee.
Don't know. I'm sorry. These are all very foreign concepts you're describing to me. I want to ask you, Xavier, I would like you to take me back to when you were a kid.
Yeah.
What was it like moving through the world with your brain? Like, what do you remember?
So my memory is actually pretty ordinary. So I have like lovely, embarrassing moments that I can just pop up out of nowhere and go, oh, great, I relive that like it's happening now.
Like at 3 a.m. in the morning when you're feeling insecure. Well, that's what happens to me.
Yeah. But so I have like weird patches of memories. I've got, I write about like my earliest memories of like my dad, for example, is like him saying, you'll never be as smart as me, you'll never be as good as me, you'll never be as good looking as me, you'll never be as successful as me. They're my earliest memories.
Wow, so he sounds like a great guy.
Yeah, we're really close.
What a stand-up there. I'm really hoping he's still in your life.
Yeah,
great.
He disappeared 6 years ago.
So that was...
He stayed in
that
too long.
took a turn.
Oh, not dead.
Okay.
No, not disappeaed from my life.
Good.
No.
He's alive, I assume.
But that's a pretty
Let us
horrible...
know.
Yeah. Please don't reach out.
Yeah.
That's a pretty horrible foundation because, like all of us, we build our sense of self-worth and, who we think we are via our parents.
Yeah.
So that's your first message about yourself.
Yes.
Right.
So that trying to reestablish what a normal relationship with myself is.
Yeah.
Like that took a lot of work. And also, again, I write in the book just at the start, to provide a bit of context, it's not a book about that, but I felt like the context was important. He used to sort of play fight. He'd say like, there'll be 3 hits, me hitting you, you hitting the deck and the ambulance hitting 100. And
Jeez.
those were my earliest memories. And so, when you're already an anxious kid, like that's hard to sort of, well, I guess it's hard for any kid to know what to say to that. Like, yeah. So,
and you were, this was all manifesting in you as well in like headaches and
Yeah. I had,
we're on theme.
When I was on five, it was like I get really horrendous headaches and Mum had to keep taking me to the doctor, and it was stress and anxiety from. Like,
and you would have
a 5-year-old.
MRIs.
Yeah.
Did you have hair extensions?
Just I got the clipless ones.
Oh, great. That's good.
Oh, so you were smarter than me.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I cared about my appearance because of my dad, so I had to get the clip.
No son of mine will have non-MRI hair extensions. So, I mean, did you feel different to your friends and other kids?
It's funny
Because you're also ADHD, right? You're one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've really got all the letters, by the way. He's overachiever.
So, yeah.
Or were you just fighting for your life full stop emotionally?
You just know what you know.
Yeah.
So it's not till like after I left school that I had like all this weird sort of stuff.
See, I had
happen.
a sense when I was walking amongst
Really?
kids that I didn't belong there.
Yeah, I don't know.
You were just, it sounds like you were just in it,
Yeah, I was just in it, and
surviving.
like then you look back and you like.
Yeah, hindsight.
Yeah, like even risk taking stuff.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like when I only thought of it the other day. Like when I was like 10, Mum used to work full time, and then I had a couple of mates from school. I was really quiet in primary school, but then So at school I was really good, but then like me and these nutty mates would like rush back to my house and we get cans of bug spray and light candles around the house and like make flamethrowers. Mum doesn't know.
Just good, clean fun.
Hey, Mum.
Yeah.
Piss off, Dad. Hello, Mum.
And like light bonfires on the
Well, that's one of the
veranda.
insidious things.
On the veranda.
Yeah,
Contained.
mate.
But you can see.
I wrote off my first 3 cars for dopamine. So, I mean, look at my body. I'm covered in tattoos. You're
Yeah.
talking to your fellow risk taker.
Yeah.
You can also see in our oppressively gendered world, particularly of the 2000s, I'm assuming this is,
Yeah.
and 90s. 2000s. No,
2000s.
2000s.
Born
Yeah.
92, yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it was just boys being boys.
Yeah, boys being boys. Boys
Yeah.
being boys. And if
Yeah.
you went quiet for a bit, I imagine this boys being boys as well. Like, that's just what, like the hedonism aspects of this, unfortunately, are qualities that we seem to just sort of, I don't know, not raise an
Yeah.
eyebrow at when it comes to, I mean, if
That's
you were
true.
lighting flamethrower. You did.
I did.
You did.
I
To
did.
Like a Prayer video and your
I recreated the Madonna Like a Pro video in our lounge room and set it on fire.
But to be fair, that was
Same,
it
but
sounds like
camper.
more of an artistic pursuit and also a homage.
Yeah, ours was just
Yeah.
danger
Yeah.
for the sake of danger.
There's something, Michael, there's something that you wrote that made me cry, that this book, and I think this is enough to sell the book to anybody. It was, for years you search, berate and hope. You wander wounded, then the answer arrives and it's not a resolution. It's the beginning of understanding. I was like, oh, bitch. I mean, I've cried enough these last few days. But yeah, when you get the knowledge about yourself that reframes everything, all your core beliefs, how you've kind of viewed yourself for most of your life, you're right. It's not like the resolution. It's not like, it's like, okay, now I'm starting again.
Yeah.
So you guys met, had you been diagnosed with bipolar when you started
No.
working?
No.
Okay.
Raw dogging.
So
You were.
well, I'm
Yeah.
interested to know, between, say, leaving high school and, starting work, what was happening for you mentally? Like, how were you dealing with it?
Not very well.
Right.
Did
you know you were depressed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depressed, anxious, like it was sort of all over the shop in terms of, and I did go on antidepressants and I had anxiety stuff, but
And they
But
just
it's-
said general depression, not...
general,
Right.
there's shit going on.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Was it
And-
connected to your father and
Childhood.
background? Had those sort of links been made?
Well,
Or were you still sort of too much in the middle of it all?
with the sort of dealing with the actual repressed emotional stuff, it was like I went to the counsellor in high school and I pulled out of that because you don't want to be the kid getting help. And I went to an all boys school.
Oh, Jesus. In Sydney.
Yeah.
Double Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
It's a
That's
clusterfuck.
not goes to clusterfuck.
Yeah.
That's you're just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
On several levels.
Yeah. I would.
Well done.
Thank you.
I just want to say, well done on being here today.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, genuinely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, mate, we're making eye contact. 2 people don't make eye contact. It's
Yeah.
a lot. It's okay that we're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
okay.
good. And then I tried to. Oh, look, when I was 21, I had a full blown mental breakdown. Ambulance, taken to hospital, suicide watch. After that, I started writing.
Yeah.
So that was me trying to make sense of things. But I remember I went to a psychologist at that time and I still wasn't accepting all the shit that had been happening. So I sort of went without really wanting it to help, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you
like,
specify that like going to see a therapist or psychologist, you kind of need to go wanting the help
Yeah.
rather than if you're going in sort of defensive. It's
Well,
really
you're a
not gonna
straight
work.
man too. Like, you're not exactly encouraged by society to
yeah.
help yourself
Yeah.
mentally. Like, it's almost seen as a weakness if you go to a psychologist.
Yeah. And
Not
that's
now, hopefully, but
Yeah. Hopefully not
you're
now.
helping to fix that.
Well, yeah, I'm very fortunate with the circle of my straight mates around me have definitely become a lot more emotionally available as we've got older, which I know in sort of previous decades that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
You sort of just
Oh,
become
shut
hardened
down.
and shut down. But yeah, I think it's really, I was fortunate that when I was going through all this, my friends really opened up to the pathways of, telling each other you love each other and that support network. So that was really massively important and like impressive from my, a lot of people didn't know how to take it because they didn't really know what it was, but they wanted to be
So is that the
available and helpful.
bipolar you mean specifically?
Yeah.
So talk to me about that diagnosis. So you knew you were depressed, you had the mental breakdown, you started writing.
Yeah.
And
then it was kind of in the wilderness for a long time and not wanting to accept that I think I knew it was for about 5 years by the time I got diagnosed with bipolar.
Yeah.
That it was that.
Yeah.
But
wow.
As I was saying, you go through these periods where you feel okay.
Yeah.
And then you go, maybe I'm overreacting.
Totally.
Or maybe I'm not, I'm just not dealing with things well. Or so you try and convince yourself, actually I'm fine.
Yeah.
And then you go through like this huge like emotional where you cannot even put into words what I have. But
You actually have.
You also,
I mean, no, I'm interested to know before we get to the book because it's so beautiful. We'll talk about your friend who illustrated it, and the way you've written it is like the soul had a pen. Like I was reading and going, Jesus, this guy's like. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with specifically the way you describe the experiences you're having.
I hope so. Yeah.
No, it's incredible. So, but I'm just interested to know what finally led you to biting the bullet, because a lot of women listen to our show, that's going to shock you, have a high. But, the mental health of our husbands is something that's really prevalent on a lot of minds. I get a lot of messages and a lot of emails about men struggling to deal with their emotions. And so I'm really interested to know what got you there in the end to get the diagnosis.
I think it felt as desperate as survival, I think, at that point.
Yeah, right.
Because I just couldn't keep having the internal and also putting out the front to everyone that
you're exhausted from the masking.
Yeah. So it was just at a point, and I got diagnosed on the first day of lockdown.
Oh, you're joking.
Wow.
The first day.
Yeah. And then
so they said to you you're bipolar.
Yeah.
Was this via a Zoom or in person?
It was in person. So I think it locked down later that day, but I ended up having to see 3 GPs, a psychiatrist, and I was already seeing a psychologist.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then they just sort of said, look, for the next 3 to 6 months, we're going to try you on medications. So essentially you're a guinea pig for that time, where they're trying to get it right.
Lockdown was okay in that aspect? Do you think it was?
Well, the bitter pill was they said it's going to intensify your symptoms in that time. So you're going to get heightened anxiety and depression.
Right.
And I was living in a shitbox on Cleveland Street in Surrey Hills.
Right around the corner from where I used to live.
He lived in a shitbox on
Really?
Cleveland Street in Surrey
This was
Hills.
a shitbox.
Well, we were on a side street. He means he was right on the traffic.
You were right. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe I could sleep. It was just the traffic that was killing me.
You're on a main road, babe.
Not an ideal location.
Get an eye mask and a quiet room.
That is
Leo
horrific.
cured.
I can't believe, and also other friends that I know that have had bipolar, it's like when you say guinea pig, they are experimenting to get the balance right, which is different for every person.
Yeah.
Can you explain the swing, like the
Yeah. So now it's much less. So I say if your average person experiences emotions at 0 to 10, I'm maybe -5 to 15 now. Mm-hmm. But before it was like off the scale. And the tricky thing was I could be hour to hour hypomanic to depressive. So I could be like really up and then all of a sudden crying.
And that surprised me and confused me because my understanding of bipolar, which comes from our parents' colleagues in the 80s, who were all undiagnosed. I worked in a hospital, not into diagnosis, but it was called manic depression at the time. I remember, because my mum was pretty good about explaining to me, and I remember they would go through long states of depressive states and then manic states and that you could see as soon as you saw their faces. Like, I mean, obviously it was their behaviour and everything like that, but actually you could see it in the way they were holding themselves, that they were like a different personality, but it was long periods of time. So, but you were flipping on an, like, potentially...
Well, it would depend on the, like, because I would go through long states of it. But then there were some, I don't know if it was particularly chaotic or if there was, you know, the repressed stuff that I was wrestling with, the subconscious that I was wrestling with that would, you know, if it's a high level of anxiety or like that can sort of be the conduit between hypomania and depressive because, you know, it's kind of like if you get so anxious.
It can flip either way.
Yeah, it could flip you into like depressive because you just feel so depressed about all the anxious thoughts. But if it's just running like your motor and you're just constantly energized by that anxiety, that sort of leads. So it could just flip. But I would experience, that was the weird thing. It was like I would experience long periods of hypomania, like weeks and then.
Is that when you're writing scripts in 2 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I remember like
when you were working with Michael, is that how you were?
Yeah, but then there's the hyperfixation thing.
Yeah,
like
you love writing.
Yeah.
So you're in there.
If it's something you love,
You're switched
it's just
on,
like,
you're not anxious. The only time I'm really not anxious is when I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
Same as you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on track.
It's like tunnel vision.
Same.
It's, yeah.
And it's such a relief.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's
That's
like
why we work all the time.
yeah, yeah.
I crave it. Like
Yeah.
it's weird. Like I step out onto stage in front of all these people and I just feel peace.
Yeah, right.
Like for one fucking moment,
Yeah.
I'm doing the thing I'm meant to do, that I'm really good at, that I love doing, that I'm really interested in, and that's all I'm thinking about. So my brain is not spiraling off into the 9,000 other things I should be worried about or anxious about that I will find at 3 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
But I get it. Of course you would choose to write a script in 2 days if you're locked in. Do you forget to go to the toilet? I do. Eat.
I will forget to sleep.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you have anybody, see, I've got people around me now that know, that say, hey, you know, but were you by yourself when you were in this place in Surrey Hills? Did you have people around you?
I was in a relationship, but we weren't living together.
Right.
And you know, there was like that separation where it's like, oh, I'll be writing tonight till 4 or 5 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, like that's, yeah.
But by the way, there's nothing wrong with that.
It was the
Do you know
way
what I mean?
I was
Like, it's
dealing with
okay.
shit. Yeah.
Like, do you still write like that now? Like maybe not to that extent, but now that you're quote unquote healthy-ish.
Yeah.
Is that how you still create?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Evil laugh.
I'm such a boring 9-to-5er. It's terrible.
he's so
It's
bad.
Yeah, I know,
pathetic.
it's
I
ridiculous.
should, the
So
way,
gross.
so what?
He sits there in a cafe and
Oh, no,
business
shut up.
hours writing.
Look, it's fine.
Too much stimulus in a cafe. What are you doing?
Right.
I like it, the
I have to be
hum
like
of
a
life.
horse in a stable with blinkers on.
Yeah.
Same.
I did used to be a bit more like that, but I had to sort of train myself because I always had to be in the production office, so I had no choice. It's like the scenes were delivered and I can't control what's around me, so I've just got to like learn how to zone
do
out.
you know
but
who-
it's a skill that I've built up too well. Like I can be,
You're very good.
The world can be ending and someone can be saying,
It's true.
and I'm like, sorry?
But the thing is, he surrounds himself with people like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. What does that say?
You mainline our energy.
I do.
I think I ended up getting a dog that has reflected me though.
What have you got?
Like a mutt. Like he's
A Jack
beautiful.
Russell?
No, Staffy Boxer, we think.
Shit, we think. I love it.
The other one is a complete fucking mystery. Like we think he's half possum. There's just this bushy tail thing. But Harold is
Good name.
yeah, Harold and Maud. But
Harold
Favourite
and
movie.
Maud. Favourite.
Heaven.
yeah,
No,
favourite.
Beaches is my favourite, but I do love Harold and Maud. But I want to know, you got diagnosed first day of
Yep.
lockdown, you find out you're bipolar.
Yep.
Then
You
what?
go on the drug guinea
Yeah,
pig.
you drug guinea pig.
Yep. So
How long ago, how many years ago are we talking now?
4?
Okay.
28. Yeah.
Yeah.
28.
How long did it take to stabilise?
So
You're
they
like,
said,
well.
yeah, exactly.
What's
I'm
the
at a
date?
12. I think they said 3 months, and then they were like, oh, it's more like 6.
Better that you don't know.
Yeah.
Let's
Well,
not talk about it.
Yeah.
and then it started like you started seeing a real difference though. Like once I'd been on the right combination of medications,
And isn't that
it just
like a
changes shit so
fucking
much.
insane science experiment? Now, how many
Yeah.
tablets are you on? Are you okay
Well,
to talk about your medication?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Too late.
I'm on 11 now.
So to function,
day.
Yeah.
11
And
a
they're
day.
daily.
Yes. So I've got to take 2 lamotrigine in the morning.
And what
2
does that do for you?
Mood stabilizer.
Mood stabilizer?
2 lithium in the morning, 5 lithium in the evening, and then that's another mood stabilizer, and then 2 quetiapine.
Yep, the sleeping ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
To sleep.
Wow.
So it's a bit of admin.
It is.
I know. I would.
And have you had
And I
times where you've
complained about
forgotten?
the
Just
packaging.
completely or
No,
misplaced
no.
them? No, never forgetting.
No. It's like,
His life literally depends on it.
Yeah.
it's like I'm terrified of the prospect of having to readjust or like it's
And
just.
for an ADHDer,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
a lot to remember.
I remember watching the Magic Johnson doco, and he was like, "I have to take 1 pill a day." And it's exhausting. I'm like, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
Call that a pill?
Cunt, I've got 11.
Yeah.
Oh, we should talk about this beautiful
Yeah,
book.
so
Please.
the way that the book works is what Xavier's done is he's described all the different states of bipolar, and it sort of roughly works like we start with more the depressive states, and then we go all the way to the grandeur, and so you sort of describe what the state is, but then you give us like what I would describe as like the thought track of what's going on in your head, what your stream of consciousness, and then also you then give us these incredible illustrations and these sort of descriptions of sort of fantastical imaginings of what it feels like. But let me describe, I'll start at the bottom because this was the melancholia one. And I think I was attracted to this because I can relate to this kind of thinking, although not at the intensity. This is like your stream of consciousness thought track for melancholia. So you have to imagine this is Xavier rattling around his house feeling this sort of intense depression. I should probably speak to someone, but what would I say if they ask how I am? Lie. Don't bother. You just bring them down. It's the middle of the day and they're all at work anyway. Normal jobs with applicable skills. I wish I had skills or I knew how to be useful. What if the toilet broke? I couldn't fix it. Need to get the plumber in. The plumber would come in confident and be like, I can fix this toilet. And I have to stand there and say, I don't have any skills. I'm sorry. I bet you the toilet does break today now. Why would I wish that upon myself? If it happens, I've only got myself to blame. I'm a skillless individual. That's what I am. I just have to live with it. An insignificant and skillless man. So you're flipping all over the place and grinding yourself down. There's no avenue that your brain will let you go to, like, in any way uptick.
Yeah, because it's like a symptom is also feels like physiological as well. So there's like the body intensity of it as well. So it's like the energy to fight off a state like that, you just don't have it. And also your mind won't allow you to get those easy outs.
Yeah.
It's like they're easy to get out of, like to try and avoid or try and move away from it. It's like it's just all sort of lumping towards yeah.
And this is this image.
Now
So-
let's talk about your friend who did the illustrations because my
This
God.
one is fatigue.
Oh.
And the sort of description that you have is possessing a body so dense it houses bones made of steel, concrete and cartilage and sand-filled muscles covered in aluminium. You're at the bottom of a set of winding stairs. And I mean, it goes longer than that, but that's the sort of really vivid kind of imagery all the way through it. So he's taken these sort of very pungent descriptions and put them, and like, I mean,
Was that the only direction? So the illustrator is a friend of yours?
Yeah, he's one of my best mates, and
that one's intrusive thoughts. And
Michael wants that on a T-shirt.
I do love that one.
I know.
and
What's his name, your friend?
Michael Arvethis. He is incredible. So we've been friends for 10 plus years now, and we've always been very open about each of our struggles, and he's been incredibly supportive of me. And he's just incredible, and I've just always wanted to find a project that we could collaborate on, and this was just the perfect thing. I know how incredible he is, so I just wrote that stanza and handed it over to him.
And that was it?
Yeah.
That was the... Wow.
That's amazing.
What a
This one's
relationship.
risk-taking behaviour, which is a wild image. And I was obsessed with this. This is how you describe grandeur, or what's going on in your head with grandeur. The world needs me. I'm like no other person that's ever existed. I'm not of this stock standard IKEA personality beige bullshit. Off kilter, wired, weird and wonderful, because I know I'm something special. My brain is different. It operates on a different frequency. And for those who don't see it yet, they're in for a treat. Because when you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Your lives will change. You will invest, reinvest, and be enamored with me. Just you wait. Winston Churchill had bipolar and he got through a world war. We're in symbiosis. All of us in that 1%. Woo!
Where is the lie?
That is, I mean,
Please write my bio.
that's like sounds like the best drugs I've ever been on in my life. Not that I've ever. I mean, I don't know, but
I mean, I've been there a couple of times, but yeah.
What's the longest time that you would stay in a state like that?
Well, see, that's the alluring one as well. Like, that's the one you hear people go off the meds because of that.
And is that hard to, like, I mean, here's a really cliched impression of bipolar. Like, and do you discuss this? There are movies that are about this. It's like, I want the highs and I want
think
the
Jordan
lows.
Belafonte, The Wolf of Wall Street, like that's how what I think. You know how he would get in those, but they were probably more cocaine highs than.
Well, and Garden
Manic
State
highs.
with Zach Braff, which was a movie I remember really well, but
my
I remember
God.
that
You
whole.
hate that. You hate that representation.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It's the whole
'Cause the
arc
pills
for
were
that
seen
guy.
as a weakness.
Yeah, it's lithium.
Yeah.
I rewatched it again. Like, I tried to rewatch Silver Linings Playbook, and I just felt like punching myself in the face.
It's hard. It's hard when your unique experience is so poorly done.
Yeah. And then Garden State, it was Zach Braff from the outset going, I want to get off lithium.
Why?
And I'm sitting there going like, I'm here because of lithium.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You know, like.
So powerful.
But not to give any credence to the way that film depicted it, but in that instance, it was like what I imagined was he misses what you were describing.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So what? Is that a factor of it, or is it that no? Even when you go to the bandwidth of 15, that's enough of a taste of it for you.
Yeah. Well, I just remembered I didn't ask. It could last like a few days or something. You know, so it's.
I'm presuming that's also often accompanied with no sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's trade-offs.
You got to pay for it.
Yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah, but it's very. It's now I get it to a lesser extent. Like if I write something that I'm really proud, you know, you get that elated feeling.
We
and
call
then
them glimmers now.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like just like electric joy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's hard because I still have bipolar. I still it's not fixed. It's a chronic disease. So I am managing it. It's not cured because I take 11 pills a day. So it's still hard to recognize those. Like you can sort of subconsciously recognize like, oh, maybe I'm going up. But then it's the battle will always be trying to manage that. Catching it before it gets there and then, you know, doing the dance of like, hang on, what are the things I need to put in place to...
Did Carrie from Homeland have bipolar?
Yeah.
Yeah, because her whole thing
Tried
was
that too.
like basically American national security depended on her being not on meds.
Are you saying that film and TV are getting the depiction
Never. I would
of
never.
nuanced mental and cerebral issues?
I would never say such a thing.
Why did you do this? Because this would have been a massive undertaking for you emotionally. Because and we all know as writers, when you want to do the material justice, you got to go and fucking live it. So when you were
full on, because that's kind of what I felt like when I was writing each symptom, because I write it in a way where it's like the first stanza is like quite literally what this is, and then it's stream of consciousness and then the little story.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the perfect way to lay it out too. Thank you. Very, very readable.
Yeah. Because I was hoping that it could reach each sort of type of thinker, you know, literal or analytical or creative. But you do have to sit in that, especially when it's stream of consciousness. You're like, oh, okay, now what is it like to feel hopeless? Yeah, I'm tracking back to there.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, so I wrote it because when I was 18, I just wish I had something like this.
Yeah.
What do you have, can I ask? Like even now, like apart from what you've just written, what do you get given for this? Like I imagine you get given things that feel like textbooks and...
That was the
internet,
issue.
which is fucking overwhelming and full of bullshit.
Or a pamphlet.
Oh, don't they love a pamphlet?
Yeah, they love a pamphlet.
So you made what you needed, which is where the best things come from.
I think in what I'd come across, it was very analytical or entirely anecdotal. Like I wanted to do something that was also a creative expression as well. So hopefully people who are like really creative and uninterested in like theory and science, they could find it.
But the most important thing is that it's your lived experience. Oftentimes times there are conversations I find, especially around autism, that happen without autistic people's involvement.
Yeah.
Nothing about us without us, that idea.
Yeah.
And I think this book is going to be so powerful because it's your lived experience. You haven't gone and researched it. You've fucking been in the trenches with it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's powerful.
Oh, and also, not having bipolar, for me, what was great about it was, like, when I go back to being a kid and being told by my parents that person has manic depression, I would look at them and they would, to be honest, I would be a little bit like put off by it because I felt like I don't understand what's happening and it's a little bit scary for me. But the interesting thing about this is, even though these states are so extreme, in the way that you describe them and break them down, though I'd never feel it on that level, I understand it more. And in some ways it's really helpful to know it's not like it's an unfamiliar human emotion. It's actually really relatable human emotions, but turned up to 11. And like, I feel like this book...
It's a beautiful roadmap for bipolar.
And for people who just want to understand bipolar, like where you go.
Yeah.
And I think, feedback coming in from people is just like, even people who are reading it just from their own standpoint of like, oh, I've experienced anxiety, or melancholy, like
totally,
relating in that way too.
I just really love myself so much, and really
Hold it up. Now, where are we buying this? Where are we getting it from? How can everybody get a copy?
Well, if you just.
We'll put a link up. We'll send it out. We'll send it out.
All right, here we go. You can't hear it, but I think there's applause on.
Thank you very much, Xavier. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
All right, we'll be heading now to the sealed section where we will be discussing Gaga's and Robbie Williams as an ape.
Yes.